A shock announcement from the White House with a dishonest twist has raised even more ominous questions about Donald Trump's health at a time when his physical and mental fitness are in obvious dangerous decline, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, so here's the shock announcement from Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, okay? And again, typical Leavitt, it's tinged, laced with dishonesty, all right, as she tries to sweep things under the rug. So her announcement is, quote, on Friday morning, Donald Trump will visit Walter Reed Medical Center for a planned meeting and remarks with the troops. While there, Trump will stop by for his routine yearly checkup. I want you to note that phrase, okay? Routine yearly checkup. He will then return to the White House. Donald Trump is considering going to the Middle East shortly thereafter, says White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Now, this might seem like an innocuous thing, all right, except it's not. As Prem Thacker of Zateo has noted, right? So that's Mehdi Hassan's network, his publication, his news organization that he started. As he notes, new White House says Donald Trump will visit Walter Reed Medical Center on Friday. While there, he'll stop by for his yearly routine checkup. But Trump had his annual checkup already 5 months ago on April 5th. That's pretty ominous. Now, before we look into it some more, I want to remind you of how Trump appeared at a disastrous press conference yesterday in which he was like visibly fighting off sleep. This is not a man who looks particularly well. Just want to play you some clips. Keep your eyes on him.
Antifa assaulting hundreds of police officers. I've witnessed them firebombing police departments and federal property. I've witnessed them making death threats against federal agents, police officers, journalists. I think I've witnessed every single person here, maybe not personally, but I've seen them get, hunted down and attacked. And so
Trump doesn't say anything, but he's visibly exhausted. He's fighting off sleep, it appears. And we actually did earlier today a video about this press conference. We're going to do another one. The theme of the video we did was about Trump's crackdown on free speech. And there were times he just wasn't paying attention. He was visibly confused. He was like, wait, who's habeas corpus? No, it's not. It's a Latin phrase, right? It's a legal concept. It's not a person. And when you combine this with the announcement, it's really ominous. And especially when you consider the recent health scares that Trump has had. Well, again, we'll talk about that. Here's another clip of Trump at the same press conference. Again, just look at him.
Nearly died. And after surviving that, the reporting that I saw in liberal media it seemed to suggest that I had deserved it because they branded me far right. And some even went so far as to suggest that I maybe faked my injuries. Nearly died.
So again, visibly exhausted, visibly fighting off sleep, not in a good spot, all right? And in response to this announcement, Aaron Rupar replied with one of these videos. Trump's face was drooping while he had a hard time staying awake on camera today. That came after the announcement. So let's look at this, all right? As Time magazine reports, Trump to get his second yearly health screening in months, yearly in months. When Donald Trump visits the military hospital Walter Reed Medical Center on Friday for a planned meeting and remarks with the troops, he will also, quote, stop by for his routine yearly checkup. But for Trump, this, quote, yearly checkup will come just 6 months after his last known medical screening in April, fueling already growing skepticism about the state of his health. Trump and the White House have tried to dispel rumors about Trump's decline, but questions about his fitness and ability to leave the country has loomed, fueled in part by the appearance of bruises on his hands, swollen ankles, and apparent mental lapses. A September YouGov survey found that nearly 2/3 of Americans say that Trump's health and age are affecting his ability to govern, while some 49% say he is experiencing cognitive and physical decline. I'm going to stop right there. Now, you may recall during the 2024 campaign, the physical and mental fitness, of the two leading candidates at the time, President Biden, the incumbent president, and Donald Trump, were a topic, particularly with respect to Biden. And as I said at the time, Biden was obviously in a state of age-related cognitive decline, but I did not believe and still don't believe that he has dementia. And I believed at the time, and I still believe at the time, like as a matter of fact, if I could snap my fingers and do the election over, I stand by what I said at the time with respect to, I would still have taken Biden and still would take Biden to this day over Trump. Because while they're both in a state of age-related cognitive decline, Trump has other personality and psychological deficits in addition to just being dumber than Biden. So he has a lower baseline. He's also in a state of age and physical-related cognitive decline. Biden bikes. Biden, tries to stay fit. Yes, he also has cancer. There's that as well, but we're not seeing what his treatment is, President Biden. He has been seen in public and he looks surprisingly good for a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. All of that is to say, questions about physical and mental health were laced throughout the 2024 election campaign. And my only objection was that we hold both candidates to the same standard. Donald Trump was in his late 70s, President Biden in his early 80s. There wasn't that much of an age gap between them. They were both in a state of visible decline to one extent or another, and they should be held to the same standard. And polls showed that though more people were concerned about Biden's physical and mental health, but a ton of Americans were concerned about Trump's. And poll after poll after poll, sometimes a majority would say both Biden and Trump, or a supermajority would say Biden, and a slight majority would say Trump. So again, Trump had these persistent issues during the campaign, but he was seen as more robust than President Biden. Then when Vice President Harris became the nominee, then that polling looked a lot worse for Trump because Kamala Harris is not in a state of age-related cognitive or physical decline. And so she looked much more robust than Trump did. So that turned against Trump, right? All of this is to say it's nothing new, but with Biden out of the picture, the spotlight is truly on Trump here, and it's not doing him any favors. The concerns come after the now 79-year-old campaigned last year against rival President Biden, highlighting concerns surrounding Biden's age and fitness. Trump set the record at age 78 years and 7 months at his second inauguration in January for the oldest person to assume the Oval Office, beating Biden's age at his inauguration in 2021 by 5 months. Okay, so if Trump leaves office at the end of his second term, he will be the oldest president in American history. Okay? Now, again, the swollen ankles, the bruises on the hands, his increasing mental lapses, all of it is coming together to make this really suspicious. While the White House described the visit as a routine yearly assessment, Trump had already gone through a checkup on April 11th. Before that physical, Trump posted on Truth Social that he was to undergo, quote, a long-scheduled annual physical examination. So even Trump admitted that was supposed to be his annual exam. 2025, I get it done in April, which meant his next physical exam should be sometime in 2026. So the White House is lying about this. Why? Why are they lying about this? The first of his second presidential term, adding, quote, I've never felt better, but nevertheless, these things must be done. The physical, conducted and supervised by the president's White House physician, Dr. Sean Barabella, it concluded laboratory and cognitive tests. It showed that while Trump has a history of well-controlled high cholesterol levels, diverticulitis, small uninflamed pockets in the colon, and skin conditions, he remained, quote, in excellent health and is, quote, fully fit to execute his duties. And again, some people say, well, there you go, case closed. Fair enough. But President Biden's physician said the same thing about him, and that didn't stop questions about Biden's fitness for office. So again, we have to have one standard. In the summer, the White House announced that Trump was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, a non-life-threatening condition involving blood vessels, which could lead to serious complications if left untreated. But Barbarella wrote at the time to the White House that, quote, no signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illnesses were identified. Barbarella, that was a Jane Fonda movie. Barbarella also said that the president's bruises could be attributed, quote, to minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and use of aspirin. It's unclear why Trump will undergo another physical, though there is a long history of presidents being secretive about their health and trying to cover up any potential causes for concern from the public. The White House has not immediately responded to Time's request for comment. Trump's new checkup doesn't guarantee any more transparency about his health. 4 years, presidents have undergone annual exams and selectively released their results to the public. And by the way, I think there's a really good argument to make. I understand like HIPAA violations and privacy and things of that matter. On the other hand, given that these are the most important and powerful people in the world at the time that they're in office, the sitting president, I think there's a really good argument to make, the Democrat or Republican, there should be a compulsion, a mandatory requirement, and that perhaps the White House should not be in charge of the physicians per se. Perhaps like Congress or an independent body should be examining the president such that there's a different sort of relationship. Like, yes, I am your advocate, I am your doctor, but it doesn't matter what you say or what you care about. If I see something bad on here, I have to report it to Congress or the public. There's good argument for that sort of legislation to be required. That's because presidents aren't required to disclose their health status, and there have been no clear legally mandated guidelines on what health and fitness markers should be tested and presented to the public. It also doesn't help Trump's case that his former personal doctor revealed that a stellar recommendation of his health before his 2016 election was actually dictated by the then candidate himself. Trump's April health report was the first extensive report on his health care since 2018, and though there were sporadic updates in the past few years, on the campaign trail, Trump kept his medical records secret despite clamor to release them. So folks, that's where we are. Again, as we've discussed on this channel, there are increasing signs that Donald Trump, who is not a beacon of health, right? He's overweight, he has a terrible diet, He, again, is profoundly stupid. He is in a visible state of age decline in terms of his verbal agility, his ability to communicate cogently. His vocabulary has shrank compared to 2020 and 2020 compared to 2016. And again, none of this is necessarily indicative that he's unfit for office. I would say that there are many other reasons why that is objectively the case, but there has to be one standard. And we can't just apply that standard to Democrats or just to Joe Biden. We have to apply it to Donald Trump as well. And by Trump's own standard, it's not looking good, especially when, again, these polls note that a majority of Americans have serious doubts about his physical and mental health and believe that his physical and mental health is declining such that it's actually having a negative impact on his ability to govern. It's not good, and we have to be transparent about it. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.